Welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Show. Whether you are a seasoned investor or building a new real estate business, this is the show for you. Whitney Sewell talks to top experts in the business. Our goal is to help you master real estate syndication. And now your host, Whitney Sewell.
I want to tell you about an upcoming real estate investing conference hosted by my good friend, Joe Fairless. Every February, Joe brings his best ever conference to Denver, which brings together the top high-level experienced real estate speakers and sponsors that has proven to be the best ever networking, content, and strategies to help grow your portfolio. The earlier you buy, the more you save. Ticket prices increase weekly, so you want to buy today. I attended in 2018, and I can guarantee you do not want to miss this conference. February 22nd and 23rd, 2019 in Denver. Go to besteverconference.com to reserve your seat today. That's besteverconference.com and use hashtag Whitney to save 10%. That's hashtag Whitney.
This is your daily real estate syndication show. I'm your host, Whitney Sewell. Today, our guest is John Lenhart. Thanks for being on the show, John.
Thanks for having me, Whitney.
John is a former practicing attorney, entrepreneur, and real estate investor since 2008. He lives in Cincinnati. He invests in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. He's grown a portfolio starting with a four-family in 2008 into a portfolio consisting of approximately 130 apartment units, 4 self-storage facilities encompassing approximately 150,000 square feet of rentable storage space. That's impressive, John. Would you tell us a little bit about just how you got into real estate and how we're going to get into how you're growing your business and how you got there?
Sounds good. Well, I've always had a fascination in real estate and actually really started to like it when I went off to law school. I never really enjoyed the whole practice of law, and I was always kind of following up on real estate and getting involved in real estate deals. And when the crash happened in 2008, I found myself out of a job and looking for that next thing to do. And I decided I didn't want to pick up scraps as an attorney for the foreseeable future with the way the economy was. So decided to get more involved into real estate. I started investing with my father in some four families at the time, and we've just grown it from there.
Nice. So I guess talk to that listener who is still in those shoes. You started growing it from there. What was really a few key things to help somebody else maybe start growing from that first property to the next, to the next, to the next? What do you recommend?
Well, what we did pretty much for most of the first 7-8 years is we've reinvested everything. Everything we generated and earned, we were reinvesting that in the next property. So that helped us double, triple, quadruple our size exponentially. On top of that, we threw ourselves into the management. And when you have 8 units or 12 units or a small portfolio, it's not that hard. It doesn't take that many man hours to manage it yourself. Plus, for a property that size, property management is ridiculous, and it pretty much is going to kill whatever cash flow you hope to get off of it. So we managed it ourselves and got to see all the details and how a property like that operates. And as we got more money invested in it and bigger, we were able to scale it and apply the same principles we did early on. And we got to learn that value add investing is the way to go. Our philosophy was always buy cash flow properties and work to increase the efficiencies, increase the rents, and grow from there.
So what's the largest multifamily property you own at the moment?
Well, we are in the process of closing in the next couple of weeks in a 60-unit apartment building. That'll be our largest.
Nice.
We have another 50-unit building. It will be the next largest we currently have.
So, are you all self-managing the larger ones also, the 50 unit?
Yes. Yeah. So we actually, when we doubled from 50 to a unit on our own maintenance staff and property manager to help us out. So we have someone who acts as a leasing agent, shows the units, collects the rents, handles a lot of the maintenance request, and then we have a full-time person. But instead of paying the property management their markup, we're handling that in-house.
Nice. So I guess tell us about some of the growing pains going from, 4 units to 50, buying 50 unit properties. What are some of the things we need to be prepared for when we're scaling our business like that?
Okay. Well, I'd say probably the first step was when we got to when we got to 50 units, we recognized the need to scale up to a more permanent property management system. Before, everything was done via spreadsheets and just managing tenants that way. But when you got more than 50 tenants on the apartment side, we realized we need a little something more robust because you can't remember everything, all the late fees that are being charged, something more efficient to handle them. In addition, something to act as a maintenance portal, be able to handle maintenance requests and monitor your maintenance as they're going forth, and be able to alert the appropriate people. So that was probably the first big step we took is when we scaled up to above 50 units, we got ourselves a full-fledged property management system. We invested in building them, which we currently are still using. Without that, I mean, we'd be hurting because really anything more than 50 people, actually really anything more than about 20 tenants, it's hard to manage without a property management system. So that was the first step we had. Then again, as we grew, bringing on someone full time to manage all the maintenance, manage our apartment turns, that was big because having someone on your payroll who can do that, it saves you a lot of money if you can have the scale to do it. Otherwise, it does get very expensive. Or if you're paying property management to do it, it's extremely expensive. We do a lot of value add, as I mentioned. So we're not just putting new paint in the apartment when we're turning it. We're upgrading the kitchens, we're upgrading some of the cabinets. We're trying to turn a Class C apartment in a B- neighborhood or B neighborhood into a little bit better property. So that's a lot of what we focus on.
Nice. So you're doing, obviously the multifamily but you're also doing storage facilities also, right? I guess what's the business plan or goal? Are you going to do both assets long-term or what's the plan?
We like them both because of the diversity. It's a good way to spread out the risk in our portfolio. We started with apartments first, and we'll always love apartments, but storage it's a phenomenal asset class because it has some of the lowest default rates in the industry. And secondly, it's got a very low, you got a very high NOI, your expense ratio is very low. Plus, as they say, no tenants, no toilets, you're not getting that midnight phone call, which is nice. So it's a very good cash business. And again, it allows you to do a good value add because 80% of the storage owners now, even today, are still mom and pop owners. The REITs have jumped in big time in the last, I'd say 5 to 6 years, but they're competing in the big cities and they're competing for the very pretty large Class A assets. But there's still a lot of stuff all over the market, whether it be in the suburban or tertiary markets that you can compete on, and it's a great asset class that throws off a lot of cash. So we find a lot of mom and pops that have run it for a number of years but are just missing out on a lot of things, whether it be a property management system, whether it be selling ancillary products such as insurance, boxes, locks, or renting U-Haul trucks. We're doing all of that and helping to generate additional income.
Give us a few tips on finding those properties, finding those deals.
We've been fortunate. We've established relationships with brokers in the area. As I mentioned, I still have my other job, and so I don't have time to leverage a big mass mailing campaign, but we've leveraged some relationships with brokers. On top of that, we use a lot of vendors to help bird dog for us. So as I mentioned, we rent U-Haul trucks at our facilities. When looking for new places, we always talk to our U-Haul rep because they're part of their job is to go out and establish relationships with other facilities in the area, whether they have U-Haul or they don't. And if something is coming available, if they have U-Haul there, they certainly want to make sure that if it sells, that they keep it. So they're going to let us know because we're going to be friendly towards U-Haul. If they don't have it, then they want to get it in. And certainly they're going to let us know that too. That's one area that we leverage. But it's not just U-Haul. It's our gate vendors, our fencing supplier, anybody we use who services other clients in the area. We're asking them, hey, what are you hearing? Is anybody selling? And they're a good source of tips, so we can at least get in early and possibly explore and examine the property.
Nice. So it sounds like, over the next, I can't remember when you said you're going to close on this next property, but very soon, 60 some units. Is that right?
Yes, a couple weeks.
Yeah. So in a couple of weeks, you'll be very close to 200 doors plus the 4 self-storage facilities. And then, what's next? What's next in your all's real estate business plan? Where do you plan to go or do?
Well, our goal is to keep growing. That's for sure. I think we found a niche with the value add properties. It's what do we enjoy. We want to move into taking on probably more third-party investors as our next step. We've done this all organically ourselves, and it's been a good process for us, and we've learned a lot as we've gone. But it's the bigger you get and the bigger the properties get, the harder it is to do it all on your own. So it's to the point where we know what we're doing, and we feel like we can offer people a lot of value in the market with our skill set we've developed. And so it's now time to start focusing and learning how to take that out to the market and grow that for other investors to join us.
So you're going to do this syndicate possibly on the next deal or in the near future?
That's the plan, to get towards syndication here in the next 12 to 18 months to do our first full-time syndication. We've taken on some small partners, just as small equity partners in the past, but we're looking to grow more towards this full-time syndication.
Great. So tell the listener who's maybe had a few properties, but they really want to grow their business also and move towards syndication. What are some tips or advice you would give someone that says, I really want to learn the syndication business, and how would you tell them to prepare to do that?
Well, I'm still learning myself, so I'm far from an expert at that. But I've been looking at this for a while, off and on, and I had some contacts, or I had a couple conversations a couple years ago with folks at Realty Mogul, if you're familiar with that site. And I mentioned to them, hey, we're looking into this asset class. We find properties. How can we get it on your site? And then they kind of laughed at me, because they pretty much said, hey, you're not experienced enough to be taken seriously at the time, which was true. And they said, ultimately, what you need to do is you need to take a property from purchase to exit, whether it be sale or a cash out refinance. And we had not done that yet. At the time, the most we'd ever sold was a few 4 families and leveraged them into some larger properties. So last year, we finally did a full exit where we took a property from purchased, we did the value add, and then did the exit through a non-recourse refinance. So we still own the property, but we did the cash out refinance at that time, and we're essentially able to show what our returns look like over a 5, 4, and 3 year period, and the annual returns to investors, what they would have seen if they were invested in that, which were very strong for these assets.
Have you heard of the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit coming up on January 17th through the 19th? It's a 3-day information-packed event for multifamily investors with over 1,000 attendees and over 50 speakers. You will hear from experts about finding deals, raising capital, underwriting strategies, selecting markets, and so much more. I have also been invited as one of the speakers to present on creating authority platforms like podcasts. Go to apartmentevent.com to grab your ticket and use promo code Whitney to get $100 off. Whether you are new to multifamily investing or a seasoned investor, you do not want to miss this event. Start 2019 off right by joining me at the Multifamily Investor Nation Summit. Visit apartmentevent.com and use promo code Whitney.
I wonder, how are you maybe networking with potential investors now, just so people know you're developing those relationships and they know that you're having success in real estate. And so when the time comes, you've developed the relationships, you're ready to go to present a potential deal to them to invest in. How are you creating those relationships now?
Well, mostly it's through, we're leveraging friends, family, and professional contacts that we have. So people in the industry, or whether they be accountants, attorneys, friends that we know that I've come across with through networking events and things, I'm letting them know what we're doing. Just saying, hey, this is what we're up to. This is what we've done recently. Doesn't mean that I'm asking for anything now. I'm not even telling them yet that we're going to look towards syndication, but at least when the time comes, they know what I've been up to the last 5, 7, 10 years. And they're more open to discussing, because it's one thing to just say, hey, I'm doing syndications, but if they don't know what you've done, or they don't know your background, and they don't know that you've been talking about this for the last 5 or 6 years, it's harder to take you seriously. So that's at least what I've been doing on the small local level. As far as the networking goes, I'm not, I probably could be doing a lot more, and I need to ramp things up and make some more higher level connections that way. But that's at least the first step. Also, that legal background of me kind of likes to understand everything going on. So I've been doing my best to build up on some of these syndication agreements, what they look like, and just getting a very good understanding of the process so I can wrap my hands around it. That's probably been the biggest thing I've been looking for, because if I'm going to be taking people's money for investing, I want to make sure I guard it with my life, and last thing I want to do is lose it. I mean, they're putting it at risk anyway with the investment, but my whole thing is to be a good shepherd of their money, and I want to make sure I know everything I'm going to see before going forward. And maybe that's just me being a little bit overcautious, but that's just kind of my personality.
What's a way that you're educating yourself, to move to the syndication model?
Well, I'm reading a lot of books by some of the syndicators. So I recently read Matt Fairclough's book. I'm going to be looking into Joe Fairless's book soon. I've got my hands on a number of private placement agreements from some people I know that have done this in the past, and kind of reading through to understand the mechanics of how they work. So from the legal standpoint, I getting my hands around that. But and then also talking to people who have done them in the past, talking to people who have some money that might be interested in investing, and just gauging some initial interest on that end. I have not yet taken the step to fully get my own documents together yet, which I look to do sometime in 2019.
So from your experience from the properties you've already purchased, what do you foresee being the hardest part of actually doing a syndication now that you've gained this other experience?
I'd say the hardest part of doing it is probably overcoming my initial fear of asking for the money, because I got looking back, you can see looking back and doing our returns, it's very impressive what we put together, but there's always just that initial fear at the beginning, and I'm not going to lie, I tend to be a little cautious. So I have that initial fear that, okay, what's if this is the one that doesn't work out? And then that's a little bit scary at first, but I think we've gotten enough under our belts to kind of show the results, and it also helps give me confidence every time we go forward that we're truly going to be protecting our investors.
I really love this quote, and I mentioned it just the show before, actually, or yesterday's show. Gary Keller says, opportunity is on the other side of fear. And, fear just disables people, and I was one of them myself, and still struggle with that. And I've had to teach myself that when I'm fearful, or somebody asks me, hey, can you speak at this event, or can you do this? And, you almost have to commit just right away, so I don't have a chance to really think about it,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's getting out of your comfort zone. And I will say the scariest deal we ever did was the first one we closed, because we didn't know what we're doing. Or as our first 4-family. That was by far scarier than closing a 16 apartment building, or a 60,000 square foot storage facility, because we had not done it before. But the more we do, the easier it is, and the more confident you get. So we're getting to the point where we're going to do it. It's a definite that we're going to do it. It's just getting all our ducks in a row now.
So John, what's something you've done recently to improve your business that we can all use in our business?
Well, one of the things we're getting ready to do right now, since it's on a hot topic. We're getting ready to do a cost segregation study for one of our apartment buildings here. I don't know if you've done that before, or if a lot of people know what it is, but we're anticipating that it's going to save us a lot of money on depreciation. At least we'll be able to get a lot of it up front, which will help our cash flow significantly in the next few years. We are, so we're going to be doing this. It's something that was pitched to us a while back, and we've spent a lot of time studying it and learning from some of my accountant friends that, hey, this is definitely the way to go, and it can really improve your cash flow.
Is this the new property that you're about to close on? You're going to do that on, or is it a previous purchase?
It is, and then we're going to go back and do a couple previous purchases after the new one.
So tell me, maybe give me just a brief definition of why, the cost seg, what that is, just in case the listener doesn't know. And then we'll go into, how you started that process.
Sure. Well, the cost segregation study is when you have an apartment or a commercial property, whether it's 27 and a half years or 39 and a half years depreciation, most people are going to depreciate it straight line. And with cost segregation, what you're going in is you're taking the components out. You have a furnace, which is maybe a 15-year property, or you have through-the-wall air conditioners, which are 5-year property. And instead of depreciating it as part of the building, you are depreciating it on a faster, more aggressive schedule. And so you're able to capture a lot more depreciation early on and than you would be if you just depreciated over straight line. So this way you're able to maximize your deductions early on in the process.
Nice. So what does that timeline look like? You've contacted a cost seg company or somebody that, obviously an expert or an engineer that's going to come out and either look at the property or will they, will they take documents and do it, remotely? How does that work?
So from what he explained to me, and we just actually had the final conversation about it today, it's about a 6 to 8 week process. And they look at a few of the units. They look at the property, walk the property, look for, just kind of do an inventory of what's there, making sure that they have everything. And then they'll go back to their office and perform a study. I believe they have an engineer in the office, a construction engineer that looks at all the components of the property and breaks everything down, from the HVAC systems to the air conditioners to the stoves, dishwashers, appliances, you name it, down to down to the door hinges, I guess. And so they'll break everything down, and they'll come up with a schedule based on what each type of property is. Is this 5-year, 10-year, 15-year, 27 and a half year property? So, or I guess it's 7-year, but they break it down, and then they'll break it down, and then they'll issue a schedule and say, this is how we recommend depreciating it here. And so that's what they'll do. And then based on that schedule, that's the additional depreciation you can get versus what you would normally be getting if you were just depreciating it straight line.
So what will be the business plan or model, if you depreciate it, over the next 5 or 7 years? What happens after that?
Well, there's still a good portion of it that you got to depreciate out 27 and a half years. But so what's going to happen is we're going to get increased cash flow the next 3-5 years or so. That hopefully will help us with that additional cash flow will help us with additional capital for investment in other properties where we can continue doing it again. So that's ultimately what we're doing. But if we sell the property after, say, year 1 or 2 of doing this, and we're going to have a huge tax hit on recaptured depreciation. But if the goal is to hold the property for 5 to 10 years, it'll even itself out over the long run.
Nice. John, what would you say is the number one thing that's contributed to your success?
Always being willing to learn, being willing to realize that there's always something else out there, someone who's smarter than you, someone who knows more than you do, and there's always something you could learn from people about real estate. I'm not an expert by any means, and I'm learning something new every day. So just always, just kind of delving into the process, delving into what's out there, and the amazing thing I learned is there's so many ways to make money in real estate that you can never possibly learn it all, and just to find something that you like. And that's why we got into the storage and the rental property.
Awesome. Well, John, you've been a great guest, and I really appreciate the value you've provided to the listeners. Would you tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you or learn more about your business?
Sure. You can find me. I'm on Bigger Pockets. You could find me there. I have a active profile there, and I'm happy to answer anyone's questions on Bigger Pockets. Or you could email me directly. My main email is jlenhart. That's JLENHART at acuitymri.com. That's ACUITYMRI.com.
Great. Thank you again, John, for being on the show, and I appreciate the listeners being with us today. I hope you'll reach out to John. I hope you'll connect with him, and I hope you'll go to lifebridgecapital.com, my website, and connect with me and schedule a call and see if I can help you in any way. And also go to the Facebook group, the Real Estate Syndication Show, and that way we can all learn from experts like John together and to grow our business. So we'll talk to each of you tomorrow.
Thanks, Whitney.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Syndication Show, brought to you by LifeBridge Capital. LifeBridge Capital works with investors nationwide to invest in real estate, while also donating 50% of its profits to assist parents who are committing to adoption. LifeBridge Capital, making a difference, one investor and one child at a time. Connect online at www.lifebridgecapital.com for free material and videos to further your success.